There's a negative equity crisis going on in the United States of America. Look at this example, Dad. Imagine you were the proud possessor of a brand new Ford F-150 Lightning, original MSRP $95,127. If you went to go trade that thing in today, go
Yes.
sell that back to a dealership, that $95,000 MSRP F-150 Lightning, imagine it only had 500 miles on it. The
Okay.
highest cash offer from CarEdge.com/sell, $39,200. We have incredible data from Edmunds showing that negative equity is spiking. There's a crisis going on in the car market right now.
Honest to goodness, there is. And I think the crisis it rhymes with salami. It would be a negative equity tsunami. It is inconceivable to me that we can have as much negative equity as we do, and that customers have to try and navigate how to handle that negative equity if they're thinking about getting another vehicle.
The data from Edmunds comes from Q4 of 2023. We can imagine that the data for Q1 2024, once it comes out, will be even worse. The amount of negative equity on average when someone goes to trade in their vehicle, $6,064. That is the highest amount ever since Edmunds has been covering this. That is up from $5,347 in Q4 of 2022, and importantly, up from $4,143 in Q4 of 2021. Now, only 1 in 5 cars that have been traded in are in a negative equity position, 20.4%. That's the highest in the past 2 years, compared to 17.7% in Q4 of 2022 and 14.9% in Q4 of 2021. The reason I say only 1 in 5 pops is because back in 2017, 2018, 2019, it was more like 30% of vehicles traded in had negative equity. So we're in an interesting position right now. Fewer vehicles being traded in have negative equity, at least in Q4 of last year. However, those that have been traded in have a huge amount of negative equity. I imagine we'll see both of those numbers go up in Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 of 24.
Absolutely. You're going to see those numbers go up exponentially. And the reason I say that is because people who bought cars in 2021 at the end of the year and in 2022, when they were paying huge dealer market adjustments, where dealers said, hey, the MSRP might be $45,742, but there's a shortage of cars. We want an additional $5,000, and people paid that. Well, as those people want to get out of their cars and get into new cars, and I'm not saying they should want to, but history would suggest that there's a large percentage of those people who will want to, and the amount of those people who will come in and try and trade their cars that have negative equity will be much higher than 20%. It'll probably be higher than 30%. And the amount of that negative equity will probably be higher than the $6,064 from Q4 of last year.
February 15th, 2022, Edmunds reported that 82% of new cars were sold over MSRP. It was March 13th that this latest data on negative equity came out of 2024. You like to say, Dad, every 4 years people like to move into a new car, something like that?
3.5.
So that means by February of 2026, we're going to see the negative equity tsunami crash land. I mean, I feel terrible using this analogy, but that's what it'll be. We're 2 years ahead of a huge, huge spike in negative equity. And Dad, quite frankly, we're already at the tip of the spear here. And the reason I say that is you don't have to look that far to find dealers already advertising upside down payoff sales events. Here's one from Matt Blatt Kia of Toms River, and another one here from Gulf Coast Nissan. Upside down payoff events going on, already. And quite frankly, you and I think probably we're 18 to 24 months, early on when this is really going to, come to a head.
Well, I find it interesting that these dealers are hosting upside down payoff events for the customers that they charge dealer markups on, and are the ones responsible for them being upside down in the first place. The reason they're doing these sales events is because they're finding that too many of their customers that are coming in are indeed upside down, that they owe much more on their trades than what they're worth. And so they have to become creative in how they attack that problem. So they run these special sales events to help alleviate some of that negative equity. And the reality is that negative equity is just going to be rolled into their new car loan on the new car. This is just a ploy to trick those ignorant customers. And when I mean ignorant, I mean uneducated as to the evils and perils of negative equity. It is a way to induce those customers to come back in and to put themselves ultimately in a worse position. So, yeah, you're going to see more sales events like that, and we're going to see more people that end up in worse positions than when they started.
Let's do an example here. There's a Mazda CX-5 S Select package for sale through a CarEdge dealer. Now, imagine, Dad, your $32,933 out the door price. You've got zero money down. You're doing a 60-month finance at an 8% term. Fortunately, Mazda is one of the manufacturers that has subvented interest rates. So let's make that more like 2.9%.
Assuming, of course, that they qualify. Yes.
Yep. Assuming you qualify. You're looking at, Dad, $590 a month as your payment on this vehicle. Now, let's introduce the negative equity conundrum. What do you think, Dad? Let's pick a vehicle.
Put in it. It doesn't matter. Put in a trade for $10,000.
So the trade's worth $10,000.
Yes. Now put in the payoff of $16,064. That would be your average negative equity today.
There you go, Dad. With a $6,064 negative equity balance, your monthly payment is now $699. That's a $140 swing.
Yes, that's huge. Okay, so $6,000, if you can qualify for the 2.9% interest rate, is that $6,000 in negative equity is costing you $140 a month on your new car loan. So it's just adding injury to insult, or insult to injury. You've put these customers of yours in this position, and now you want to further exacerbate their position in order for you to move another car. That you can't get somebody who's slightly better educated as to how this might impact their credit. You can't get that customer to come in and buy the car. So you want to get somebody that doesn't really understand the scenario here to fall for it again.
Now, Dad, let's talk about getting an approval with negative equity. You're now looking at a higher loan to value ratio. So this could be another reason why a bank might not even approve an auto loan, correct?
Of course. Yes. You're looking at the bank having to finance almost $39,000 when, if you had no negative equity, if the trade was worth $10,000 and the trade payoff was $10,000, you'd be financing $33,000. I mean, that's a significant difference. And so that could be the type of difference where the bank goes, well, that's $6,000 worth of air, and we're not willing to finance that $6,000 worth of air.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention the fact that you're paying off more interest because obviously you're financing more. So just because your payment's higher and everything, you're actually financing more. You're financing at 2.9% in this example, that negative $6,064. Not a good situation to be in. And quite frankly, a lot of people end up just doing that again and again and again and again. And let's be clear, the best thing you can possibly do if you have negative equity, just pay off your car loan, right?
You either pay off the car loan or you come to the table with the amount of negative equity in cash. Okay, so that you can at least be whole when you start the new loan.
100%. We have all sorts of guides, resources, and things like that back on CarEdge.com to try and help you with this stuff. Pops, thank you as always.
My pleasure, handsome.